the agenda up, or if we want to go ahead and let Lynette jump right into her agenda topic. I know we have her first up for landing page overview.
Al, did you want to cover like a project status real quick or just hop into the agenda?
I can do that.
Okay.
Give me a second. Sorry about that. All right. We are currently, let me share. We are currently building up towards next UAT release, which will be next Wednesday starting. You'll see it Thursday of next week. In that release, we're going to have ETPL training plan renewal. So any of the folks that might be interested in that should be aware that that's going on. Measurable service gains, and then employment enrollments, education, employment outcomes, education enrollments, and then we're going to show the customer prerequisite dedupe. So these are the things that are going to UAT next. Following that would be applications on 211. So this will be in between 128 and 212. And this is our schedule going along right now. Obviously, we are finishing up, making sure these all are ready to go. And then we are also working on this applications heavily in development, services in development with recommended services. That'll be coming in and being worked on. And then we have landing page work going on, and we have a lot of things, a lot of stuff going on. We have some service collection work going on. So this is what's next. And we'll give you a heads up next week. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Gonna hop into our first topic, which is the landing page. Last week, at the end of the week, we sent you this page for local review. And I'm gonna drop it here in chat, so you can take a look at it. And as we're talking through, and so on this board, you can come in, grab one of the little stickies, and add a comment if you want. And this is to talk about the first thing that people are going to see when they log into IWDS 2.0. So they come to the page, they put in their username and password, and this is a career planner view. Currently, we're working on two different views of workflow view, which is this one, and an operational view, similar to how EBS is set up. We're going to work on this one, which is the home page. I would think that the career planners would want to see when they first log in, and it would have the goal of this page is that they would know what they need to do today based on coming to this page and seeing some of the notifications. And so from a career planner standpoint, this would be filtered to just my customers. If you're at like an LWIA supervisor administrator, it would show you your LWIA, so you can see a whole view of what your whole business looks like as far as customer metrics. You can see we have the standard header across the top. It'll say welcome back and have your name. Across the top, you have four metrics that, and then we'll go through one by one. And then they have an underline, they'd have a number and underline. We'd have the ability to put like a red, yellow, green alert on the top of it as well, if it's something that requires attention, similar to how iPads has the rows turn red or yellow. And then when you click on this, you'd be able to open up and see the customers that meet that metric and be able to navigate to their profile to do the work that you need. The main part of the page has 4 sections on it and have like bigger things that you would interact with. Then on the left-hand side is like a home bar, um, more of a vertical representation of what's on top. And then if you had customers assigned to you, when you see the customers tab, you'd be able to like click on this little link, this little drop down, and be able to see them and hop right in your customers. And then we would have like a link to the referral system here. You'd have your management tools. Favorites is a new concept. Right now we have the ability to favorite ETPL provider, and then we're gonna have like add a favorite to the report section so that you'd be able to jump into like things you use frequently on that side. And then at the bottom of it, we'd have like a quick link to open a support request, a way to get to the help documentation, the ability to see your account information, and another link to log out. So those are kind of like the main parts of the page. I don't see any comments here. So let's hop back in there, and I'm going to go deep into each of the sections and like talk through it a little more. This is where customer participation is helpful, or if you want to just put a post-it on it, um, you're more than welcome to. So like we have like things that people would want to know is like the customers that need contacts this week. And this would be people that are probably in that 20 to 30 days or 20 to 29 days without communication or a two-way communication case note, so that you'd be able to see it and be able to catch them before they end up in the red category. The next one is looking at people who have the last activity service greater than 60 days. And so we're catching people that may not have notes. And David, I see your note on having an alert regarding contacts. So so you have like like who they are is what you're trying to say? Like so customer A needs to be contacted. Customer B needs to be contacted. Or just like that you have 5, it's it's shaded yellow, click on it and look at them. So customers who finish training and don't have a hire date. Okay.
So what about selected service? If they pass that selected or they're coming up to their selected service date where they need to be in compliance with selected service.
You want an alert when someone's coming up to,
Yes, with selected service. Because we're also getting, you got 30 days and 30 days after their birthday to be in compliance with selected service, unless all of services ended. So if
okay.
they're not in compliance, they got to stop service, and the case manager cannot continue working in anything towards that customer.
Okay. I kind of see that as being something that would be here, right? In the notification. So you would be able to see like when somebody was assigned to you as a career planner, activities that were created, new things that happen. And like I can kind of see like it would be like customer name, needs to have his selective service compliance updated. Is that what you're thinking?
Yes.
Okay. So Okay, so Omar, I see you have a note for number of customers who are 10 days prior to the no active service. So you want this number a little earlier. You want this at like 50 and 80. Okay. And then yes, we got the ones for customers who finished and don't have a hire date. Um, and then we have one with the participants with open services more than 6 months. Is that something that a career planner is looking at and would find useful, or is there something else that we can, that would be like the main four things that a career planner is looking at to drive what they need to do today?
I'm going to say yes, we should get some kind of notification because sometimes the caseload, depending on what local area you're working with, the case manager caseload is extremely large, over 100 clients. And if it's something past 6 months, we should get some kind of notification and say, hey, what's up with this customer? Are this customer still interested? Is it time to exit and stuff? If so, how that's going to affect your performance and stuff. I don't know if you could put all of that together within a notification to say all of this, but something to notify them at least.
Okay. And then, Sandy, I see that you have one that we have a report and someone's getting close to having their follow-up that will need to be closed. So some customers that are entering transition. Is that what I'm hearing? Or nearing transition? Cool.
Um, this kind of goes with that five number five participant fourth matrix there. Participant
Mm-hmm.
services prior to or more than 6 months. Um, so for the
Mm-hmm.
training service, when we put that training service in 2.0, it's gonna have a projected end date.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's the case, could there be, along with that notice, could there be a notice that pops up like a month before the projected end date of the training? Because I
I
think
would,
one of
so
the
you
things
would
that
want something
happens
here
is,
that would be like customer name is 1 month. Yeah, 30
yeah, something like
days.
that, because sometimes people, because there isn't a projected end date and then there's no notice, and so then they have keep the service open, and then they all of a sudden realize, oh, wait, this person was in training and I forgot to, follow up with them, and the training's ended like 3 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
But if they had a notice, they can then check up on them and say, do we need to extend? Do we not need to extend? All that kind of stuff.
Okay. I would think that that would be something that would come in here, like, in your notification state. So and so is entering is 30 days before their end date. And you're going to be like, well, I probably need to reach out to them soon, right?
Yep.
Um, the homepage, yeah, we do have a worry about it getting busy. And I think the difference is figuring out what is like the top level metrics. I think notifications would be really busy eventually. Like you're gonna see everything that's happening with your customers and kind of like a news feed type of thing. I think that's a good way to talk about notifications. That's probably like your news feed. Um, and so those two places would be busy, or this place would be like the busiest place. But this is giving you like all those things that you had to keep in your head about your customer or have or had to go in and click and see, well, where am I with this person? It's going to come right out and tell you, right? And then you can decide whether you need to click into them or not. This one is going to help you keep on track with your whole customer base. And then this is probably like, and then we haven't talked about my customers yet. This one would be like in where you could look at your customers by the status that they are and hop into each one of them. And then Cassie, the customer is not going to see this page. The only people that are going to see these pages are people who can get into IWDS. The customer can't get into there. Their place to, their place to log in is in WorkNet, and there'll be limited things there.
Okay, that's what I was concerned about.
Yep.
Thank you.
And then, so Crystal, yes, there's going to be a few places for reports, right? This is kind of, this is like this is just like I'm not going to call it a dashboard. This is the landing page that has some information about my customers. There's going to be a dashboard link at the top. You can see, and we have it when you've been testing, and that's going to take you to a version of iPads that with the rows, and you can click in that way. And then the reports, like you go into the report section, IWDS will be held in the report section. So there's going to be lots of ways to get data in 2.0. But I see like some of the things that would um, help, like help folks to, manage their customers would be on this page and provided probably mostly in the news feed. On the alerts, like when it says alert here, Cassie, we're talking more about like if it's over a certain threshold, maybe the box would be yellow. If it was like beyond a threshold, it would be red to mean like you really need to click on this box today. But most of the time, your goal is to keep all your boxes white. And then the career planners probably would not be able to create those alerts.
Okay, so I guess my original question is like, what would be in those alerts? Was it just be the same day services, the case notes, or if objective days, the dates have passed? Like, what would be included in
Yeah.
those alerts if career planner can't create them?
So here, like like you're talking about, like, maybe we set a goal that like you shouldn't have more than 10% 10% of your caseload that needs to be contacted this week. I don't know
Right.
what that real number is. And so if you have 50 customers and it says 5 here, it's going to be yellow because you're nearing that 10%, right? And if you had 10 people, which is 20% of your caseload that needed to be contacted, then it would be a red, like you need to work on this, like, and you need to do this, and the system would do that kind of thing. This notifications box would kind of tell you other things, like when a customer gets assigned, or Robert's idea was like, hey, so and so is nearing their needing service compliance, or somebody is 30 days before their ending date,
Hmm.
and then you can use this. Think of it like your Facebook news feed, and you can click on it or not. And
Okay.
so,
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, your turn.
Yeah, so I guess I was just thinking about because the career planners can't create their own alerts to keep up on their caseload. I was just thinking about the things, that they can keep up with in these notifications, as far as if someone's done with training, alerting them like, okay, they're nearing towards the completion of their training. You need to check up on your customer, something like
Hmm.
that.
So, like, we have one there 30 days before the program ending date.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
so like you would be like, this one is nearing the end of their program,
Okay.
and then you'd have their new customer
Hmm.
name is nearing the end of their program. And then
Okay.
that customer would have a link, the customer name would have a link, and then you can go into their profile and
Okay, that's
go
good.
back and play with them. The other way that like a career planner could like make their own thing is this to do thing. And it's um first iteration would just be kind of like a table where they can, click on thing I have to do, call customer. And then
Okay,
they'd be able to do like not started, in progress, or done. Done would mean that it falls off the list. In progress or not started would mean that it stay on. And that's a way that they can help manage their own work, you know,
great.
electronically.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. You want, I see we want to be able to like mark as done. Okay.
Yeah, I was just thinking that, once we get a notification, that should stay on there, whether it's, last week or, however long it's been. It should stay on there until it's addressed and then
Okay.
be able to mark it done.
Okay. Awesome. That's a cool feature.
And then is there a way that potentially like the administrator or the manager or the director would be able to see a report on all the notifications that still were not done by entire staff? Kind of like an accountability thing. I mean, because
Mm-hmm.
if you don't want people just sitting there with a notification for 3 months, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Um, so I know that, like at least in our area, we want, our goal is to make sure they're up to date, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we check on that every once in a while,
Yep.
a lot.
And yeah, and as like a person who manages an LVL, you would see like your notifications are probably gonna be a little crazy because you're gonna see everybody's. And then you're gonna have your own probably like on, I need to approve a provider or stuff like that. So I'm hearing that we both like and we don't want the notifications in the top to get too busy. I'm hearing that, but we also want a place for the career planner to identify the things that they want to do. Um, we want, we like that we can have some of these customer things and be able to mark things as like needing to be done, but we also want to have accountability so that we can see from a management level, like things that are uh, that we're not done so that we can follow up and make sure that we're staying in compliance. Am I missing anything? And then awesome. And then I have one other thing here about what would be helpful for a career planner to see. And both the comments are kind of talking about a place to have links to e-policy, service matrix, or like a resource area. I I don't know that in the first iteration there would be a way to have, be able to put local documents there. But what do we think about that idea, like a resources tab? I'm not hearing a whole lot on that, so I'll let you guys kind of think about that more. If you have some time and want to come in and take a look at it and digest this yourself, um,
Okay, let me ask you something. You say
sure.
a resource tab.
Yeah,
When you
like
say a resource tab, I I guess if you can be a little bit more detailed as far as because that could be a wide range of stuff that can be added, but again, we don't want to overload the system with everything. But give me a little bit better idea what you're trying to get with doing that. And
the
maybe I can
comment, yeah.
maybe I can answer it better then.
No, you're good. The comments here say like a link to the e-policy manual or the service matrix in the service ma it would just say like resources up top here. And then it would include let's kind of mock it up a little bit. Um,
Lynette, can I add something to this
sure.
too? I think this also came up last week when we were talking about assessments. We noted like we're going to have links to resources, places like, the ETPL search is a thing we'll engage them to do. Um, we'll, we're going to engage throughout the system. We'll have prompts to engage with specific resources for the function you're doing. But it was also noted like, would there be one place that kind of housed all resources? So that if a career planner needed like a place to kind of see all the resources we note and use through the system, they could find it there instead of like embedded within all the various tools that are kind of supporting some of the functions.
So you'd see like go to e-policy, you'd see go to the service matrix, and then you'd be able to like click on the link and go back to it.
Yeah, and just in the chat, Lynette, there's lots of, I like the idea of a resource section. I like that. Good idea. Things like that.
Okay. Robert, what do you think?
I think that would be a good idea. Yes, I understand that part.
Doodle. Cool.
Also, with
Nice.
that, quick question. Also, with that, can we also put decide what the state put as far as certain? How about having where you have the local policies?
Yeah, so that's something I'll look into to see how we can move that in. It may not be in our first version, but I'll make sure that that's a priority that we can add local links. So let me put a sticky here. Cool. So this is a really great start. You guys all have the link. You have your link from your email. You can come in and like dive into here and take a look at it. Feel free to add more sticky notes. If you need some assistance to guide, I have like a what did you like, what didn't you like, most useful, and ideas that you can add so you can reflect on what you saw. And then I'm going to be um, looking at your feedback here, and we'll be working back with the state to finalize what this looks like. But knowing what your input is important because you guys are with the touching with the career planners on the daily. So I appreciate all the feedback for today. And I'm going to stop sharing now and feel free to reach out if you have any questions or have any other ideas. I'm happy to talk through that with you. And I'm going to have Olivia take over, and she has a topic to talk about today.
All right. Got my screen shared. So I just wanted to go over, we had lots of folks engage in reviewing the flow and providing posting questions. I also got lots and lots of local resources that I used as I was drafting the first round of the training assessment questions. Um, I'm still going to continue to work on some additional questions that we talked about kind of around um, not just restrictions, but the like setting the stage for the occupation and additional restrictions or uh, local or even statewide expectations that we want to make sure are set with the customer before we move forward. So that is the last question that I'm really going to be digging into and working on. We have a draft set that we're taking our first look at the state level. But I want to go through the questions that you guys have put in here. I was able to, I reviewed all these as I was building the question, then I provided answers this morning. Most of them were really just confirming or making sure there's things that we're doing, and we were doing pretty much all of it. So on our first page on our career interest and choices, Cass, you had asked, will we pull in the career interest form included in page 1? Yes, so we're going to pull in, we're going to have engaged the customer in completing the career and interest survey prior to during the intake portion and the getting started assessment. So we will pull those results in. So here we're just going to be using that along with other data the customer has supplied to select our final career choice that the customer is moving forward with. So all that's really just being pulled in here. An example of kind of what we're looking at for this page would be we would pull in if they'd identified occupations they're already interested in or their thoughts on the jobs, which we collected in the getting started. We're going to pull that all in, and then we'll also pull in their results from their interest survey with the top jobs that they matched with based on those results that you can then view the career details on. The customer would have seen all this information already as well. When they completed this, they get the same set of data. So we're going to be pulling all of that in for review. And then we have just a few questions here after we've reviewed data we already have collected to determine the job the customer's chosen.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
So for that career, for the interest thing, is that something that you would have to do when they're there in front of you, or can you send them a link to that prior to them actually coming in to meet with you?
Yes. So when they complete the application, if they are doing it on their own, or even if they do it with a career planner at the end, once that application is complete, we are going to send them an email automatically from the system, that says, thank you for completing your application. In the meantime, you can complete this getting started assessment. It's going to help streamline you going in to meet with the career planner. And we're going to try to get them to do it then. If they don't do it then, when they go in to the career planner, they have to do eligibility certification, and then they can complete the getting started assessment. It's embedded within the getting started assessment, and they can choose to do it then, or the career planners will also have an option to click a button to send an email to have them do it on their own. It's a 30 question. We've actually kind of recreated it to make it a little more visually appealing. I don't know that, Lynette, I know we showed that to the state. Have we showed that to the locals? I don't think we have because we just finished that.
Not yet. There were some uh first revisions from the state, and I want to get in, and then maybe next sprint we'll show it in this group.
Perfect. Yeah. And so, yes, Joel, to answer your question, there's going to be multiple ways in which we try to engage them to do it on their own. We'll also give the career planner the ability to do it with them. If, we've tried multiple times and they're not doing it, then they can do it with them in the system, and it will save that data to that customer's profile in both workNet and IWDS.
Okay, thanks.
Allison, you'd asked, where do we, does essential employability skills, financial and digital literacy fit in? We're doing digital literacy and financial literacy. We have some questions on those embedded in the pre-screening and the getting started assessment. I need to double check for the employability skills. We have some questions that are written in more plain language and like a customer-centered language. They get at some of the employability skills. But I need to crosswalk to make sure we have all the employability skills in there. We're also considering in a future iteration doing kind of like an employment assessment where we would look at some stuff like that as well. Cassie had a similar question. Does the link for the customer pull out job outlooks that are in demand? So yes, so here we're going to be, my answer was yes, we'll be pulling demand data based on the occupation. So for that, we can automate the demand. So based on the occupation selected, we can crosswalk that with our demand occupation search using the codes, and we will auto populate if the occupation is in demand. We're going to also show that, make that more visible. in our search so that you can see that when you're picking it. We want to try to prevent you from going to the next page and having to go back. So we're going to make that visible on the search. But we know that there are, ways that you can get a petition for it to be a local demand job. So we're not going to stop you from picking one that is not in demand. If you do, you'll get to this page and you'll see that it's not in demand, and you're going to be prompted to ensure that because it's not in demand, you are taking the appropriate next steps to work with the supervisor to petition for this to be a local demand job. If you are not doing that, then that's where it becomes a hard stop. You can't move forward with a job that is not in demand.
Olivia, it's Mark. I also, could there be a message if you're having a message like that? The other option that I don't want to forget is to work with your leadership to work with employers to comply with policy that allows exceptions to demand occupations, such as OJTs, RAPs, things of that nature. And not only solely think that the only way that someone could get trained for that occupation is to ask for it to be added through a petition. Because we've brought that up in training for many years that especially when an employer comes to a local area and says, "Hey, I got these 20 openings coming up, but we can't really find substantial need otherwise." The real option is to engage in an OJT with that employer because it probably isn't going to get added with a petition if all we can verify is 20 job openings.
Yeah. So one of the things I have embedded in here too is, and we can use that kind of down here. So if the customer triggers, we're going to have these for both training and occupation specific because they might not be able to move forward with some occupations, or they might not be able to move forward with a training program. So we're going to have some text that the customer cannot move forward with training for this occupation because, and then based on the trigger, it'll auto-populate the different reasons depending on why you triggered it. So to move forward with this occupation is not in demand. So we can expand this text that shows with additional information tied to specific reasons. So if it's because it's not in demand, we can have some additional text that says to move forward, they either have to pick a new occupation, or if they want to move forward with this occupation, they could explore alternative routes such as an OJT. And I'll work with you, Mark, to figure out that list, but we can definitely do that. Will there be a link in Illinois WorkNet?
Okay, I think we
Will
read that one. Sorry. I
I'll
think I
leave.
asked that already.
Oh, okay. Well, and
Yeah.
I think this one was specific to the ETPL.
Yes.
So yes, we're going to embed the ETPL process in. Where do I have that? This was training man. You can explore the programs together or send the customer the link to explore on their own. And if they bookmark, then it'll auto-populate here. That will be embedded. It will open up a modal in IWDS with the ETPL search for you to complete that activity within IWDS using the WorkNet ETPL search. So you won't have to then go to another system and try to find that. We're going to streamline you quickly connecting to that. They had another comment. We had originally talked about potentially having a minimum number of programs they need to identify. We decided to move away from having a minimum. They have to pick, 2 or 3. We're not going to have a minimum, and we'll focus on better guidance around the appropriate way to engage with, reviewing the ETPL based on the customer's situation. Because we got some good examples, like they're halfway through their associate's degree or they have 1 semester left. Obviously, we're not going to make them go through and do a search the same way we would for somebody who's not really sure where they're wanting to go. I assume this is where the local ETPL program coordinator provider has gathered information and is currently recorded in IWDS as the ETPL program record, and this information will display here. Yes. So once we pick a program, so we're going to pick a program, this will connect to the training provider list in IWDS 2.0. They'll be able to select approved programs. And then throughout the rest of this assessment, we're going to pull in data from that program. So we'll pull the provider name, the program name, the description, the address, the outcomes, and other places we'll pull in, like, here's the program entry requirements that were listed for that program. Here's the program schedule, structure and schedule that has been outlined for that program. And we're going to pull all that information into these screens so that as you're doing your review, you have that specific data for the selected training program to compare that against what the customer said they're needing or what their situation is to ensure that it's going to be a good fit, or that we can identify appropriate services they might need to help encourage and support them in being successful in the program. If the training does not meet the local training ITA policy, will there be guidance for the career coaches for next steps? So we'll display the red message, like if it doesn't meet, we'll display a message that they can't move forward because it doesn't meet local policy, and that they could explore other training options. But my question to you all is there additional guidance that we need to provide them if the training doesn't meet the local training or ITA policy? And I can take this back. This was brought up with the state and see if there's anything from their perspective they think needs to be highlighted. We had some good conversations around this. So if there's anything you guys think of that we would want to provide the career planner if the training doesn't meet the local policy, training policy, we can do that.
Yeah, I'll kind of think about it too because that was my comment, and I'm just
Okay.
like, okay, what are we telling? What's next step? So, I'm kind of talking about it with my assistant program manager as well, and so I'll follow up if I once I meet with her on thoughts that we may have.
Perfect. And throughout this assessment, there will be potential for this prompt to display that the customer cannot move forward with the training program because insert reason. To move forward with completing the training assessment, to begin a new training program. I need to clean this language up. But essentially, this needs to be a new training program must be selected in order to move forward with the training assessment. So, and then I have defined here like hard stops. So if the training does not align with the customer's occupation choice, we're not going to move forward with the training assessment. I have if the training does not align with a local training or ITA policy, this red text would show up and they could click find a new training program and it'll essentially take them back to the ETPL page where they can determine a better training program. I think as part of this, we're going to have like a text box for them to like narratively tell us a little bit about the situation that we can log. But we're defining here some like hard stops. And a lot of these are because like we've identified, oh, this training is like the customer said they're only wanting to travel 15 miles, and the training program we picked is 25 miles, and that's not going to be doable for them. So the customer said, actually, that's not going to work for me. I need to kind of reevaluate and find something closer. So a lot of these are kind of the customer has identified, but then there's a couple up top where it's more, policy driven. We can't move forward with them. And then, Crystal, you noted we have a question. Does the training align to the customer's occupation? And you had asked, is this going to pull from the training program records, ONET code, and compare? you put some other information there, but that gets at the heart of the question. And so we will compare the ONET code to their selected occupation to the training program. To the training program, you can enter ONET codes there, and I think you can enter like up to 5 or something, but they only have to enter one. We will compare those, and if it is a direct match, the system can auto-populate yes. If it is not a direct match, this question will not be answered, and we'll display, I noted this year thing, I'm gonna add a comment here. We'll display, oh wait, I put it right here. We do display it, I have it there. So we'll display what the training program has identified, and then we'll have what the customer identified, and I'll include the code. And then the career planner, this is not a full list, right? The career planner will then make that determination that yes, this training program would support the selected occupation in the instances where it's not a direct match. So this one was and they picked and it's on the list, so we auto-populate yes. So go ahead.
Hi, Olivia, it's Amy from local area 7, and I had to step away a little bit, so I hope this isn't a repetitive question. So, or 2 questions. One, we had we have a policy where people are supposed to go out and kind of compare. I think they're supposed to visit at least 2 training providers so they can pick which one they're going to. It seems like this process will kind of force them to consider factors of choosing one program over another, like going through these screens, like what's the transportation's closest, you know. I'm trying to figure out how do we get to, you know, there's 4 truck drivers schools. How do I pick this one over the other one?
Yeah, so at this point, we've already picked one. So a lot of that work of when we're looking at 4, we're going to do as part of our full review. And then the program search has a compare feature where we can kind of compare all 4 side by side. But the rest of these screens, we will have picked, okay, now we kind of looked at all 4. This is the one we want to move forward with. We're going to pick that one, and then it's going to pull in the information for that provider. And we're going to verify suitability for that one.
All right. So we may not have to send them to different schools if the comparison is going to be more electronic.
Yeah.
Okay. 2, you know, the cost of a training program, we have people do you know, a financial statement, because maybe the training is, you know, $15,000 and our max is $8,000 for an ITA, but they have other, you know, a Pell Grant or something that they're leveraging to cover the cost. Is that done?
Yep. So we have a page, it's the last page before like the summary, understanding training costs and financial aid. So we'll pull in the full cost of the training program. The locals will have to have a conversation about like, okay, here's the full cost. Here's what we can pay. Have you ever applied to FAFSA? If so, what types have you gotten? And do you want assistance with applying? So that the customer can understand like, the total cost is $16,000. We can only cover $8,000, so that leaves another $8,000 left. You know, have they ever got FAFSA or are using it? If not, and do they want to go ahead and apply to help with the remainder of that?
All right, thank you for going. I'm sorry to make you go back. I had to step out. I just want to make sure this was covered. Thank you.
No, yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, so we'll have screens here that kind of help facilitate that conversation as well. we know with this, there's a lot of local policies or different,
Yeah,
things of dependent. So we are really trying to more provide the information to guide the conversation. And we're not necessarily like embedding that how much can you pay and how much can we pay, but we're giving all that information here to drive that conversation.
gotcha.
So yeah, that's one we just talked about. This I had down here, I believe it's this yellow question. Does the training program align with demand occupations in the customer's area? That question, I should have removed it. We kind of reordered these two. We have originally had explore training options, then demand occupations, but we switched those. The demand occupation stuff is coming first, and we're making sure the occupation is in demand because you're not going to have training programs for non-demand occupations because of policy. So Crystal, I replied back to you, but that is something that should have been removed, and it was addressed with how we reconfigured these two. I'm gonna jump to the chat real quick. Where I think we only have like 2 or 3 more comments left. So, ooh, where'd I go? Is this step of the process taking place prior to enrollment? No. So as a reminder, our training assessment is happening here. It's happening after we've got through pre-screen application and eligibility certification. We do the getting started assessment. Anytime after eligibility certification, if they trigger a goal that is training specific, which we have the listed ones that would trigger here, then they will be required to do this assessment before they can have an actual start date in a training program. So it's up to the career planner exactly when it's done, but they can't start the training program until this assessment has been done.
Olivia, can I ask a question based on that information you just gave?
Yes.
You mentioned earlier that the training program might not be uh, suitable for a specific customer, that it's not an approved or it was one of the steps you showed earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And I thinking of, okay, so what's the next step for the customer to go to? If the customer is so focused on getting that type of training, but the system is telling us they can't proceed, how can we tackle that with the customer?
So it's going to be dependent upon why they can't proceed. And we can look at providing more guidance for the different triggers that they would not move forward with. So if it is something because there is a question, I think the next one we're getting to is like, what if they don't meet the entry level requirements? Well, there's services that we can provide them to help them get to a point where they can meet those entry level requirements and move forward. If it's because they have a life situation that conflicts with the like requirements of the training program, like I am legally blind and the truck driving program will not let me in because of that, or because I will not be able to get a job. I don't actually know if that's true. It's an assumption, but in those cases, then it will have to be a harder conversation of like, this is out of our control.
But isn't this something you think should be addressed prior to enrollment?
According to federal policy, no. And I'll let Mark talk a little bit on that. We talked about it last week. There's still other ways that we can serve the customer and assist the customer outside of training. And we need to make sure that we're not assessing and requiring them to do a bunch of suitability work before we have made them eligible and provided services that they may need. I don't know, Mark, if you're on still. I know you were
Yeah.
earlier.
Yeah,
But
and
this
you're
keeps
right.
coming up So I flagged it to our training team of this is a big concern on your guys' end. So
Yeah.
just so you guys know, we note that this is a concern.
Are you able to hear me, Olivia?
Yeah, go ahead,
Okay.
Mark.
Yeah, no, I mean, you said it, and repeated what we talked about last week, I think it was, as you mentioned. I know there's a gray line there, but we have to be cognizant of the law and we can't go beyond what is considered self-service and information only. And when we get into those kind of discussions of trying to figure out if they're suitable for training before we enroll them, we've gone beyond that point because as Olivia said it, there are other services that can be given. So your priority is just to determine are they eligible or not. And if they're eligible, and they're in the right place. We get people potentially walk in the door and they don't know what they're in there for. Obviously, you're going to ask them enough questions to figure out are they in the right place. Yep, they are. They want to look for a job. They want to look for training. Okay, cool. Let's get what we need and what we can get before enrollment. But getting into details of training is not something we can ask prior to enrollments.
And we have also included information on the front end of like intake to note that there's only some things that we can provide. We're gonna have a welcome page too that talks about like we can provide training, but only in like the only on the ETPL, so that they can search that and review that before they even start down the intake path. And we'll continue to try to make text within the intake so that it is transparent to the customer. Because we don't want to do what you're saying, Omar. We don't want to have somebody come in who's like, I want to do this training. I don't know. I want to do astronaut training and it's not on the ETPL and have them go all the way through this to find out I can't even get that training. So
Yeah.
we're working to craft the system and the way that we like engage and provide information to the customer to minimize that potential as much as possible because that is not customer centered, like I think several people have pointed out.
But didn't we have an initial assessment where it shows the customer what potential career paths they can pursue prior to enrollment in the assessment part?
Yeah, so we're asking how they would like what they would like help with. And so one of the things we could look at doing if they're picking, things related to training is just like a pop-up message there that says, we're excited to help you on your training journey. WIOA, if you are found eligible, WIOA can help you for approved training programs. If you want to take a look, you can view those here. And so they can kind of look at that before deciding if they really truly want to move forward with the rest of pre-screening and application, because they might realize, oh no, astronaut training's not on the list.
Yeah, I mean that would be help. Yeah, that would help definitely. Or CDL, training requires one, two, three, four, five, and if they notice that one of them is going to be difficult to get, then that it will raise a flag in the beginning before they even proceed to the suitability part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
so we can look at including that in more of our intake front end stuff too, just to give that visibility to the customer. Um,
Okay.
The difference between eligible and enrolled, um, being determined eligible will happen when we complete the application, have all the necessary documents, and we verified they meet eligibility for one of the three tracks. Being enrolled means they have received their first enrolling service and have an actual start date added to that enrolling service. Cassie had to step away for a fire drill, but she had asked, and she should have got my comment too. I think Miro does email these. Um, why is this included in the training and assessment? Was this already identified in the intake process? So we are going to really be pulling in a lot of money management information the customer has already provided as part of intake because we did collect a lot of that. The new thing is then we're going to have them do a budget worksheet, which we have not had them do yet. And then we're going to look at that compared to their income needs that they have identified and make sure that they feel comfortable moving forward with the training program, and they're going to be able to financially manage that. And if not, like, what can we do to support them to make that happen? Like, is there something we can do to make that support them to make it happen? Yeah, Crystal, I am working on that to make a mural. I've started another one. I just haven't quite had the time to get it all flushed out. I'm actually need to have to jump off this call to go work on this other mural that you're talking about. Um, I've started another one somewhere that is going to try to aim to do more of that. That's not it. Too many mural boards. But yes, this is it. I'm working on kind of trying to show. So like once they get into the orange, and I'll have better markers here, like, and I need to work with policy because by no means am I the full policy expert. I need to check. Eligibility certification might be an enrolling service in some programs. So I need to check exactly where that happens. And then I'm going to have different flows for the tracks too, because it gets a little hard to put all three programs into one and have it clearly like define that. So we're working on that as well. And we'll have that, especially for the training portion of everything, to make that very clear and visible to everybody. The last comment I have before we have to close out for today is just some sort of script. So if they get all the way to the end of the training assessment and they end up needing to deny it for some reason, like, how do we have that conversation with the customer? So I have this flagged. I have a couple of these flagged red. I'll look at seeing if we can get some guidance on, what that conversation might look like. We had a couple of comments down here. They were, one asked about RAP. RAP is actually, if you trigger an apprenticeship, you're going to go down this track. If you're just doing the work-based learning component of a registered apprenticeship, but not the training, you would fall here because you'd just be doing it under a work-based learning. We did have that conversation. So that's how that will work. And then you had noted the same comment as above as well, for just guidance if they get here and they're not moving forward. So with that, we do have to jump to some other calls. If you guys have any questions on this, please feel free to email them to me. And we will definitely continue to refine this as we move into getting it into development, so we can see the screens and test this more in UAT to really see how it is working and functioning. But with that, Kelly T, is there any other closeout things we need before we let everybody go?
I don't believe so.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for your time today, and we look forward to talking to you again next Thursday.
Well, thank you. Thank you, ladies